Welcome to Leaving Nothing to Chance, your go-to podcast where we bring you insights from some of the most influential voices in small business and personal development. Each week, we dive deep into conversations with top thought leaders, authors, and business moguls from around the world, sharing their secrets to success and strategies for growth. Tune in for exclusive content that will inspire, motivate, and equip you to take your journey to the next level. This is Leaving Nothing to Chance.
Well, hello, everybody. Want to say hello to everyone and introduce a new friend to the show, Mr. Chris Beane. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. And Chris has a great podcast called The Prestigious Initiative that I was a guest on last week, and will be on a upcoming show here sometime in the near future. And really enjoyed the time that we spent together last week. We had a great conversation.
Likewise, yes.
So hopefully I'll return the favor today and I'll be a equally good host, or at least I'll try to be. I got a lot of questions for you, Chris, because you deal in self-improvement. You deal with people like myself, like yourself, that are constantly trying to improve their life, their business, their family, all the different aspects that go into having a successful existence here on this planet. Let's get started. What 3 steps would you say are the 3 most important steps for someone to improve themselves, be it in business, be it in personal development, be it in life?
3 steps. Okay, so I think step number 1 would be to find your values. When I say values, I don't mean honesty and integrity. I think those are great, and I would classify those perhaps as morals. But values is how you spend your time. Time is the most valuable commodity that we have. So how you spend your time dictates the type of life you're going to lead. And if I can drill into that value kind of mindset, I think all 3 of the steps lie in this. If you can, to find your values, and again, values are the things you like spending time on. You're going to have things that you like spending time on more than you like spending time on other things. And so the first step is to be able to find out what your values are. The next step would be to put those values in a hierarchy. Where is the most important value for you on down the list? And if you can add a why, like why is that value important to you? How does it speak to you? How does it help you to lead a life that you want to live? And if I may, I can go another step here. Have a affirmation for each of those values, right? And okay, so let's put this all into a system that anybody can utilize. You have your values, the things that you value spending time on. You have a why. Why is that important to you? They're ranked in most important order. You have an affirmation for those. And then the last piece, you can build this into a really easy system, is you have a reminder in your calendar that goes off on the specific day, time, or week or year that value is important for you. So for example, for me, a value is I want to be the best parent to my kids that I can be. So I would have my affirmation call that attention to me. Now, I wouldn't do that now because my kids are in school. That wouldn't be helpful. So I have that actually call to my attention on Saturdays at about 10 o'clock. My watch rings. I have that affirmations there. I get to read the affirmation. It says, I'm the best father in the world. Sorry for anybody else that's a parent. I already have that title. It's mine. And then I get to go and enact that value for myself. I know that was a little bit over 3, but I think that if you can do that, we really set you up for success in so many different ways.
It gives us a perfect bridge to the next question, which is time management, because you're a business owner, you're a dad, you're a husband, you've got a multitude of other hats that you wear, like most people do. And one of the things that's so difficult for most people, myself included, is time management. How do you manage your time effectively?
Let's go back to the values. If you have your values in place, you know that this is the most important value, and on down, it's really easy when something comes up. Okay, how does this fit into my values? Is this higher ranking than those other things? And if it is, then I need to take priority and do whatever that thing is over the other things. Now, I understand that's a high level way to look at time management. So let's get into something. Have a calendar. Keep a calendar. Have your days and things that you need to do on your calendar. And okay, so the next part is everybody has tasks that we have to get done. Instead of having a DO date to that task as a DO, have a DUE date. And I didn't come up with this, but I love it. I want to adopt it. So not a time to do these things, but when are those things due? And then you plug those into your calendar, right? So if I have 8 things to do for today, when are they due? When are they DUE? And then I put them into my calendar. And instead of having a task list, I integrate all of that into my calendar. So I know that I can look at my calendar and I can see not only the different meetings I have, the different things that I have to do for the day, but also have my tasks in there, and I have scheduled when I'm going to do them. Now, life happens. I know we don't live in a perfect world, a perfect system, so then I can just migrate those things over. And eventually at the end of the week, maybe it's at the end of the week, sometimes it's at the beginning of the week, I get to kind of take a snapshot of the things I did this week. Great, I got these things done. All right, I didn't get these things done. I migrate them over. Now they're in my next week's calendar.
I love that. Do versus do, DUE, right? Very similar words, but boy, different meanings, right? A big way.
Yes.
So let's talk about goal setting, for example, because something being due a lot of times with goals, it's a specific amount of time. I want to bench press a certain amount of weight. I want to run a certain time. I want to sell a certain amount of XYZ product or service or whatever it happens to be that's applicable to our listener as a human being in business, either for themselves or even for somebody else. There's still due dates. How do you get goals that make sense, that are logical and attainable with those due times, so to speak, in there?
All right, John, I gotta say, you teed me up for this perfectly. Goal setting is something that I take near and dear to my heart. And I actually take offense to the SMART goal setting method that everybody, the tried and true method, because I think that there's some really big stumbling blocks for me in that SMART goal setting system. So SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Specific, got no problem with that. Measurable, okay, great. Attainable. Attainable is that means it's within your grasp already. That means you're not growing in order to achieve that thing. I take offense against that. Realistic. Okay, realistic to what do you mean? Or the other thing would be like realistic or relatable. Like those would be the kind of two versions. What does that actually mean, and how does that connect to your goal? Maybe my goal is to change careers. So that's not relatable to where I am, but that's actually where I want to go. And then the last part, the time really messes people up, because if you want to lose 5 pounds by this specific day and you only lost 2.5 pounds, that means you're a failure because you didn't do it in the amount of time that you thought you were going to do it. Humans do very poor at guessing how long something is going to take. So just by having that time component in there, a lot of times that sets people up for failure. So what I did was I created a new goal setting method that I think fills the blocks of the SMART goal setting. And it's an acronym just like the SMART goal setting, but I have the visionary goal setting system. It is a little bit more involved, but I think it fixes some of those issues. So with the V is for visualize success. With that, you want to have a clear mental image of what your success is going to look like. I is for integrate your values. I already talked about what values are and how they meet with that, but you want to align your goals with your core set of values. S is for set your why. Define a meaningful and specific reason that you want to reach that goal. That why is going to be your motivation that's going to get you to put some action down to achieve those things. I is, again, for instill affirmation. Affirmations to help to develop positive reinforcing beliefs so that you can achieve that thing and put the work on. O is for organize daily practices. And I think that's where those tasks come in and the due dates. I choose to say practice as opposed to habit. Habit would be the other thing people would put in there. Habit for me, because of the way culture has built habit, is a set it and forget it type of measure. And if I want to achieve this goal, I don't want to set it and forget it. I don't want it to become automatic. I want to come at it with intentionality, with purpose, with intent to achieve whatever it is that I'm working towards. So I want to organize daily practice. I want to establish some daily practices that contribute directly to me being the type of person that reaches that goal. And then in is for navigate weekly check-ins. You want to schedule regular time to review, to celebrate, to analyze, to check your progress, to see where you're at. A is for anticipate obstacle. Visualize potential challenges. Plan for how to overcome them. We talked about life is not a perfect line. We know that God has a plan for us, and we don't always have that vision of that straight line from start to finish. Life is full of obstacles and setbacks. And if we don't have a way to think about what those things are, we have no plan of action to get back on track when we get lost. Now, we're not going to be able to think about all the potential obstacles that may actually happen, and that's okay. But if when an obstacle comes up, I know that maybe I can morph plan A, plan B, and plan C into plan D, and I have a way to get back on track, and I know what that looks like. The R is for reveal comfort zone stretching. You want to identify actions that push outside of your comfort zone so you can grow and become more than you are. And the last one is Y, which is yield to adaptability. You want to be open to adjusting your goals and strategies based on whatever life throws your way.
Wow. Love it. Love it. I can see why you've been so successful, because that is a great way to think, certainly. Let's talk about something that we don't ask a lot of times on podcasts. And one of the things that I find, and you've interviewed 150 some odd entrepreneurs at this point, right? And likewise here, I find it that success leaves clues, and that the average day of most entrepreneurs is very similar. They might be in different professions, different tasks, but tell people about your average day. When do you consistently get up? What do you do when you get up? What are some of those success habits that you've established through the years that help you now? And maybe you just do them automatically today because you've been doing it for a long time, but tell people about an average day in Chris's career.
Okay, so my day is going to look different probably than a lot of other people because of what my job is. And so my day starts at about 6:15. I still have three young kids. I have a 6-month-old, I have a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So they're spread out a little bit, but because of that, that dictates how my morning goes a little bit. I get up, I most of the time help my wife feed the baby the bottle. While I'm doing that, I'm reading scripture. Right now, I'm going through the John MacArthur Bible study where you read one passage, one section for 30 days, really get the meat and potatoes of it, to really know what it means, to write that on your insides. And then I get to write about that. And so I start my day with that. While I'm feeding the baby the bottle, I'm reading scripture. And most of the time we finish about the same time. And then I get to go on to help to get myself ready. I get myself ready, do all the things I need to do. Then I go in and I pack the kids' lunches, help them get out the door for the morning. Because of my job, I'm a professional martial artist, my day doesn't actually start until a little bit later than most people. So that means my morning time after the kids go, so about 8:30, give or take, I have opportunity to spend time with the baby. Baby, again, is 6 months old. I get to have that bonding time with her. That is so helpful for me. And I've been blessed to be able to do that with all of my kids as they grow, to have that time with them, to build that bonding time with them, especially at such a young age. So I use that. I take my time to do that. I value that time. She goes to sleep. I get to do some reading and get to do some studying. Sometimes I'll have a sitter come in where I get to come in and do my shows. And that normally the shows now have been regulated to Tuesdays. So I meet with people on Tuesday. I do about 2 episodes a day. And then from there, I even sometimes have been on the weekdays recording a individual video. So I jump on, I hit record on my phone, I talk about whatever the topic I want to talk about is, I post that up on social media. I did one video a day for an entire year. I tell you, there are so many beneficial things that happened when I did that, but really what it did is it brought the barrier to entry down so far that I know that I can hit record, post it up, somebody's going to like it, somebody's not going to like it, and I don't really care. It's going to go out there and it's going to be fine. So anyways, all that happens about noon. I'm eating lunch. I get to take my daughter to the sitters, and then I head to work about 1 o'clock. From there, I have an opportunity to check up on emails and tasks, do whatever I need to do for that. Then I actually start my work day at about 3:30. I work until about 9:30, and then I'm home. I get to kind of wind down, journal at the end of my day, different things that went on through the day. Just an opportunity to take whatever is in my head out onto the paper. I also, if I have any tasks that I didn't get to on that day, I push those off to the next day, and then I get an opportunity to reset for the next day. Hopefully that was a good answer for that.
Let's go one step further, okay? Because you got a background in the martial arts, right? You and I have that in common, right? And some of your listeners they may not. But how have you found that your training as an athlete has crossed over as to your training in your business life?
Mm. Discipline. Discipline is right there. So discipline, and then I think the ability to think in systems. And I think that those have actually informed on each other. So I think I get the systems thinking from doing the business side, but I can bring that over into the physicality side. So I can think of systems in what business systems are running, where are the holes at, how do I plug those holes, and I can iterate and test on those, but I can take those same systems in to the physical side. And so I need a physical plan to make sure I get my exercises in, to make sure I do all the things that I need to do in that realm as well. I have an opportunity to inform on each other, and I think that the systems and discipline are the connective tissue for those.
Now, over the last few years, we've both seen a lot of changes in the world because of AI. How are you using it, and how do you plan to use it going forward in all aspects of your career?
All right, so let's take the podcast, for example. Anytime I get a opportunity to interview somebody on the podcast, whether I'm reaching out to them or they're reaching out to me, I have created a ChatGPT bot that I spent probably 40 to 60 hours on creating. I can give that bot a person's name, a brief summary about them. It goes on to the web, searches all of their information, pulls that back, and I get a quick sheet about anything that I need to know about them. From there, I can plug that into a program that will set up the slideshow. So if I'm sitting here, I can meet with you. You can't see it, but off to the side over here, I have a little 2-button keyboard. So I can push the slides forward or backwards, and it all looks cohesive, like I'm just having a conversation. But really, I'm seeing my notes up there so I can have those conversations, and it looks like I'm having an open conversation, but actually I have a little bit of hints, at least to steer the conversation of where to go to. And then on the flip side, after I meet with somebody, I take the notes that I write during the show, I take the transcript from the show, I plug that into another AI bot, and I have it give me a grade. How well did I do as a person that's doing the interview? Give me a grade. What did I do good on? What did I fail on? Where can I improve on, and how? And so I plug that in, pow, I get that feedback. And the nice thing about that is, for me, is so thinking from the system side, from the discipline side, that's like my coach. So I know how to be a better interviewer in the future, moving forward. And if I don't have that feedback, I don't know what I can do. I can guess, but I don't actually know. So to have that kind of metric that's there, that's already in the system for me, is great, because I get to have that. Okay, great, yeah. And sometimes I agree with it. Yeah, I could do that better. You know what? I don't actually agree with that. And I get to choose, right? Because I'm in charge of it. I get to do it. Yes, I like this. No, I don't like this. I agree with this. I don't agree with this. But I put that into the AI, and it gives me that feedback, so I know what to do moving forward. Then the next thing is I have the AI give me the title of the show that's optimized for SEO. I don't think it actually always does a beautiful job at that. I don't know if that's just because AI is a little bit like it's trained on information that's passed a little bit, but sometimes it gives me the titles that are super long, and I know that's not SEO optimized. And so maybe it's trying to fill too many keywords in there. But anyways, I do that. I hash it down a little bit because I don't always love the huge long title it gives me. And then it gives me also the show notes. And then I just plug and play those into the platform, so those can be in the podcast. Now, how do I use it in the business world? If or when I get an email comes in, most of the time I write the email that I want to send back, and I put it to AI to say, hey, how is this, right? This is my email that I got. Here's what I'm thinking about sending back. Let me know what you think. And sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't. And then I can send it off. And I think that what that does is I'm not actually technically training it on how I'm writing, but it's using my way of writing in order to operate that and move it forward. So it's not a cold, heartless email that's being sent back, but it has a little bit of me still in that email because I actually write it, but then I send it, and then I send it out. I think so far that I've had good luck with that, because I know sometimes, and I'm sure you have as well, gotten emails that are very obviously AI. And sometimes they don't even take out the, please send this to so, and they just copy and paste the whole thing and send it over. I'm like, oh my gosh, you could have at least gotten rid of that. So I use AI a fair bit. I try to use it as a tool and not as the work. Like, I try to do a lot of the work myself, but I use the AI as a tool, as a sort of research assistant. If I could pay a research assistant to do these things, I would, but AI is already there. I don't have to pay them. Great, let's just do that.
So I love your thoughts on podcasting, because this is a media obviously that's growing. I think the last I checked is about 4.2 million English speaking podcasts going on at any one time. That number's probably grown since I looked last about 90 days ago. I think when I first looked at it, it was like 3.5, 3.6 million. You look at the past election, Donald Trump was on 100 plus podcasts. Kamala Harris was on 4 or 5. So, obviously he reached that 35 and under group that is not watching the three big networks. So I love your thoughts on podcasting and why it's such a valuable media, not only for you in your respective business and how you're using it, and your show's growing nicely and you're adding listeners constantly and adding content constantly, but how do you see it? And do you think it's a necessity for people in small business to be podcasters?
Okay, so the hard part with that is because there's so many podcasts out there, it is hard to find your avenue of approach. And the other hard part is, like, me as a person, I have so many interests, so many. Like, I couldn't do a podcast that is just one specific thing. So what the beautiful thing about it for me specifically is I get to meet with people across all kinds of different things. And with that is so good for me because then I think about my podcast as the college course that I wish I could have taken when I was in college. Right? Because the college course you have is vague and it's not very specific, and the people doing it, like my business professor inherited his business, his trucking business from his father, ran it into the ground, and then went to school and now is teaching business, or at least he was when I was there. And that's where I learned business. Okay, so that's way out of whack. And often that is the kind of things that happened. But you go to college and it's these people that they're college professors. They're not professionals doing the job. So if I get to meet with those professionals, I can do that. And the cool thing about that is I can bring my listeners who are also multifaceted, they like lots of different things, in on that. So a challenge I see is people trying to go so far down one specific path that they're losing the essence. And the other challenge I see is people are trying to play sometimes too much to the hit thing. And again, they're winning some audience and it sounds good, it looks good on paper, but they're actually missing out on some of the core essence of why it's important to them. And I think that is why podcasters mostly fail. And they say if you have a podcast that makes it past episode 7, you're within the top 50%, because so many podcasts are out there, but nobody makes it past that, or not very many, 50% don't make it past episode 7. And so if you make it past episode 7, you're in the top 50%, you're like, great, that was easy. Like, why can't anybody else do that? Well, it's because they're trying to get too specific, or they're trying to jump on whatever hype wagon or train or a hit thing is going on right there, and they miss out on the thing that they wanted to do in the first place. So that's where I think people fail at. There's so many of them out there. The other thing is, you asked, is it helpful for business? Yes, if you have a business and you don't have a podcast, I think you're missing out. Because at the very least, what you get is an opportunity to meet with other people who are in the business world. That's a networking opportunity. And just as well as I do, that networking is so impactful for how businesses operate and how businesses connect to other businesses. And there's all sorts of marketing opportunities and all other things across there. But the other part is, as a small business owner, you need to have a fresh, steady stream of social media content, because that's where everybody's at. Everybody's on social media. And the podcast, if you do it correctly, will be generating that content for you, not free of charge, but basically free of charge. You just sit down and meet with people, you clip those into small bites, and you send those out. And if you do one episode a week, you can have at least that week's worth of content already done, and you don't have to go and do it again. And yeah, you might get 2 or 3 hits on that one, but you might get 50 on this one. You might get 1,500 on that one, 15,000. And it's not always every one of them is going to land amazingly, but it's getting your word out. And you want to have a mountain of content. So you are out there so much. Nobody could not say, yeah, I haven't heard of you before. You want that to not be ever something somebody can say. So by having all of that content out there, you meet with people, you clip those up, and you send those out. What a wonderful way to create your mountain of content that is just already there. And you get to sit down and meet with people. And if you take the podcast, like, I think if you took the podcast the way that I'm looking at the podcast, like a college course to learn from, sit down with people who you want to have conversations with, ask them questions you want to find answers to, and learn and grow along the way, then it's a multifaceted win. You get to win because you grow, you become more, but then you can bring the listeners in, and you have all of that short form content to create that mountain of content that everybody needs in order to exist in the business world as it stands today.
Yeah, I'm laughing a little bit because about the school teacher truck driving example, and I think the same thing. I went to a great university, and when I was graduating, I started my first business, and somebody said to me, "What did you learn in college?" I said, "Not a darn thing about making money." Like that class, the class on how to make money, was not offered at my university. And I learned some great stuff about a lot of other stuff, believe me. But at the end of the day, nobody ever said, "Hey, John, let me take you by the hand. Let me show you how to start a business, grow a business, pay the costs, pay the IRS, pay all the stuff, all the subtle stuff that's in business that we don't even talk about, that we just take for granted," to your point. And what podcasting, I think, does, and I've looked at a lot of your podcasts, a lot of other podcasters' podcasts, including my own, is it's almost like a college course in entrepreneurship, because you've got these people from all different types of businesses and services that they've survived doing something for a living that have all of this experience of life, and not all of it good, a lot of it where they got the what beat out of them. But at the end of the day, it's like, go back to both of our common love of martial arts. Sometimes you got to get smacked in the nose to wake up, right? And so it's the same thing, but it's great to hear all of that. So let me ask you another question. We're getting to 2026, hard to believe, right? We're
Mm.
in the last couple of months here of 2025, right? It's hard to believe another year gone. How do you prepare your business, okay, and yourself for an upcoming year? Or do you? Some people just ignore it. It's just a different shift on the calendar. But do you prepare where you say, okay, let me finalize 1 year and let me prepare for the rest, be it goals, be it how many podcasts, how many, whatever it happens to be? How do you prepare for the upcoming year?
I'll give you a yes and. Yes, definitely. And not only do I do that on a year, I do it on a quarterly, I do it on a monthly, and I do it on a weekly. And okay, so I have a whole plan that I go through, but here's the basic thing that anybody could do. Let's say it's on a week. What worked well this week? What didn't work so well this week? What can I do next week to make it better? On a month, you look at the weeks. Okay, these are the highs of the weeks, these are the lows of the weeks, these are things I could do to be better. Then you answer those questions again, looking over those. How was this month? What did I do well? And then you do that on the quarter. And then you have the quarter. When you're doing the quarter, you're looking at the months. When you're doing the year, you look at the quarter. And so each time you do that, you have a whole list of information, all this data that you can look at, all the way back to the days, at the very least, all the way back to the weeks, where you can say, okay, what did I do good? What did I not do so good? And what can I do better next time? And so when it comes to the end of the year, I get to look at those. I look at the quarters. Okay, these are things that went good in the first quarter. These are things that went good in the second quarter, all the way down. And I answer those questions. What can I do better this year? All right, great. Then you move on. And I think that that's a real simplified version. I think you could go a little bit deeper and that would be easy to do. But if nothing else, those questions, what did I do good? What did I not do so good? And what can I do better moving forward? If you do that, even if you did that on a year, right? We're coming up to the end of the year, like you talked about, ask those questions. What went well this year? What didn't go so well this year? What would I like to see better? Or what would I like to see happen for next year? That's it. Right? And then the opportunity to look back on that, to reflect on that, to have that review process on a weekly. Let's say a weekly would be great. Maybe it's on a monthly. Maybe the first of the month you look at your plan. Okay, great. And then you can use that to inform, all right, am I hitting these marks? Where am I at? Have I hit enough downloads? Have I hit enough new clients? Whatever the metric you want to track is, but you just ask, what went well? What didn't go so well? And what can I do to improve?
You know what I love about what you said there is there's an old statement in every sport imaginable. What gets measured gets improved,
Managed. Yeah.
right? So there you go. Hey, let's talk about faith a little bit because I know faith is very important to you and your family. Were you always a man of faith, or did you come to faith as an adult? Talk about your faith a little bit.
Yeah, okay, very interesting. Thanks for letting me talk about this. So this connects back to martial arts. I started training martial arts when I was age 11. 37 now. I got a work permit from school when I was 14, so I could start to help to teach classes. I was already helping, but then I could get paid. And I worked up. Now I am the head instructor. I don't own the school, but I teach all the classes. I manage the teaching staff that assists me in teaching. I get to manage the office personnel. I'm even in the process and have done this a couple times now of training another person to go run another school. My martial arts school that I run is faith-based. We're a Christian martial arts school. And having that influence at age 11, I didn't grow up in a faith-based home. So that was my opportunity to be introduced in that. We pray before each of the classes. We talk about God in the class, which is, I think sometimes, whoa, did they just say that? Because it's not normal. They go to school, they're going to talk about God in school. The Bibles aren't in school anymore. All of those things are missing, but really that is what our civilization is built on. Our civilization is built on faith. All the way back from when they colonized America, there's faith that's there. There was heavy faith that's involved in that. King James, a lot of people still have the King James Bible. He wrote that. He didn't write it. Okay, they put that together so that we could understand it in our civilization. Okay, so I came to faith as, let's say, early to mid-teenager. And not only do I get to share my faith on a daily basis when I'm at work with people who are young, with people who are impressionable, but also with their families, with the adults that I train as well. Even sometimes from people that have never been introduced to God or any sort of faith at all before. And so being able to be that light or to carry that light. In fact, my name is Christopher. Christopher, in one sense, means the light bringer. And so I get to use that as my namesake in order to share the light with other people. And it's wonderful that I am able to find that at such a young age, and then I can share that with other people. And I think that having an opportunity to know God is one of the great joys that we have in our world. God shows us what love is. We all know what love is because of what God did for us. He gave his son to save us from our sins. And if we believe that is true, then that is the wonderful gift of love. He loved us even before we knew him. And so if we can share that love with other people, if we can be that light for the other people, what a wonderful way to improve somebody's life and to improve their life for so good than otherwise.
Great. Tell people how they can reach you, Chris, and also tell them a little bit about your show, the Prestigious Initiative. I love the name of that, by the way. It's a mouthful, but it says a lot about who you are and also about the quality of the show, because you have a very high quality show. Tell people how they can reach you and also get on there and hear the show.
Very good. So you can find the podcast anywhere where podcasts are. We're on audio and video. Searching the Prestigious Initiative on social media, we are at Prestigious Pod. You can find me on social media at Chris Beane Official. I like to post kind of short clips of things that happen behind the scenes, also kind of some self-help type of things on a mostly daily basis, if not a couple times a week. The show, the podcast, so the name is a little tough to say, but I really there's so much in a name, right? Especially coming from a marketing and networking background, when you hear a name of something, you're like, wow, that's it. And so I knew that having a name, it carries so much weight, so much meaning behind it. And so having something that is the Prestigious Initiative. What is prestigious? We're pointing up, we have an upward arrow in our logo. And what that means is we are reaching higher, we're growing, we're on an upward ascension. And the initiative, you want to take initiative, take action on doing those things, put the work in to achieve more, to be more. And I like to share with my audience and meet with people like yourself about how we can do that across all kinds of different avenues, whether you're a business owner, whether you're just a professional in whatever domain you're in. If you want to live a more prestigious life, if you want to be better, to reach your goals, to achieve more, then that's where you can find the Prestigious Initiative.
Great. Chris, this has been a privilege and a pleasure, my friend. And let's do this every few months, because you're always a wealth of information, and I appreciate how much you thought your thoughts are so positive, and that frankly you're helping young people to come to faith, because we're at a critical time in this world. Certainly not that we haven't been in the past, but I think the time is even maybe a little more critical than it has been in the past. So thank you for all the great things that you do, my friend.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check back weekly for more exciting episodes. And don't miss Ink and Insight every Wednesday, where we celebrate iconic authors and dive into their impactful works.